Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today's guest is Chris Hallberg, better known as the Business Sergeant. Chris is a leadership expert, business builder, and trusted advisor to organizations who want to level up when it comes to performance and culture. Chris has guided more than 100 leadership teams, built an award-winning company during one of the toughest economic periods in recent history, and helped organizations earn recognition for talent development and employee engagements. His work for developing veterans into strong business leaders and his practical, no-nonsense leadership has earned him recognition from Inc. magazine. So we're going to be talking to the business sergeant about everything that he's up to and going to be up to in his no-nonsense methods. So, Chris, thank you for joining me.
Curtis, thank you so much for having me on your program.
Why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, let's see. Husband of 28, pushing 29 years, father to two boys, 21 and 18, lifelong learner, wooden spoon survivor. Let's see here. I learned how to lead, manage, and galvanize teams in the military. Always was a leader, always volunteered for stuff. Big personality, short attention span. I spent the majority of my schooling career in the hallway. Usually there's a deal between the teacher and me, like, hey, just keep it light and we'll give you that C and keep it real. And a few of them didn't appreciate my social butterfly tendencies. And a few of them told me, hey, Chris, you need to learn how to be quiet. No one's going to pay you to talk all day. So you just need to hush and follow the rules. And that didn't sit well with me. But as a young man, I needed some structure in my life. And I was able to influence a lot of things. But like the Army, you're not changing the Army by being one private. So I kind of met my match there and learned how to follow rules, serve a higher power, be a good teammate, and understand very quickly there's always someone bigger, faster, better. So your job is just not to be the slowest. And that really changed me. And then after my 9-year part-time military career as National Guard military police sergeant, that whole time, full-time, I worked in super maximum security prison, 5 stories underground. That's an interesting job for a 20-year-old. And by 23, I was transferred to a medium security facility to make sergeant, which was another challenge, managing officers in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So I took that fired up leadership style that I learned in the military and brought that into the civilian business world. And a lesson in personal branding, Curtis, became the business sergeant. So people knew exactly what they were going to get when they ring me up. They're not hiring the business sergeant to tiptoe around the tulips. They're hiring the business sergeant to come in and call balls and strikes and point out the gap and talk about how we're going to gain some traction on that. And that is a short, but I think pretty comprehensive version of how I'm here today. So no one told me I couldn't be a fired up military style leader in the civilian business world. I just did it. And turns out there's a market for straight shooting, mentors who care a lot about the greater good, and getting other people to lean into that military team building mindset has proven to be very successful, almost 200 times now.
Well, I'll tell you, I said this in the green room, but I'll say it on air. Thank you for your service. And let's talk about when you built a award-winning company during one of the most tough economic periods in recent history. Talk about that and talk about What business decisions and leadership decisions mattered when pressure was the highest?
Well, this was back in, get my numbers right here, 2009 to 2011, 12 time frame. So that was during the Great Recession. And I created from scratch an energy efficient remodeling business. So at the time, there were some tax credits. And seeing we go to the Middle East all the time for oil, why don't we just be more miserly in our consumption? So my thesis was to not just do remodeling, do it with ultra efficient products that qualify highly for those tax credits. And this was in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And if you've ever been there in February, you would appreciate some more, higher insulation windows or insulation or energy audits or air sealing, because a lot of the homes there were post World War II. And we literally took newspapers from 1947 out of the walls and replaced that with cellulose insulation. So it's kind of neat to read some of those newspaper articles, but you need a little bit more than some crumpled up newspaper in those walls. So what we did is we made the homes more sustainable, way more energy efficient, use the tax credits to lower the investment and the increased energy savings to accelerate the ROI. What was different about us being, a number one dealer in our first 6 months of being a business, and businesses that had been around for generations going out of business, is we had the leads. And the quick story on how we had leads and no one else did is we just looked at marketing from a different perspective. And I partnered with a city leader for the Greenpeace Corporation. So I found a bunch of people that were wildly crazy and passionate about the environment and let them know that this is kind of the greenest thing out there is conservation. And if they were into saving energy and keeping carbon down, then we needed to get all these leaker homes to be more efficient. They agreed, and they were out knocking on doors in Minneapolis in the dark, in the winter, in the cold. And we went out to certain affluent neighborhoods and had a very compelling presentation, and we had plenty of opportunities. And we had a solution. It made sense. And we scaled that to several $1 million just in the first year, and then sold the concern just a few short years later. And the business that bought it basically copied my entire marketing, sales, and installation template and shared that with their dealer base. So it was a great sale, and had royalties for 10 years after. So it was the gift that kept on giving. It was a beautiful situation.
Well, after working with more than 100 leadership teams, what is the most common blind spot you see that keep good leaders from becoming great leaders?
Let's take a quick break.
In Kansas, blind vending operators are vanishing without a trace. No bodies, no witnesses, only silence. Detective Michael Miguel thought he had seen everything, but this case pulls him into something far darker, a web of institutional corruption so deep it was never meant to be uncovered. When vulnerable blind people disappear and bureaucracies close ranks, one question remains: who will fight for justice? As Miguel digs deeper, he uncovers a conspiracy reaching the highest levels of power, a system that exploits the very people it was designed to protect. The truth is buried in paperwork, hidden behind closed doors, guarded by those who have everything to lose. Some conspiracies hide in plain sight. This one hides in the dark. Iron Cane Media presents The Blind Conspiracy, written by Mikhail Battles Sr., available now on Amazon.
I would say trying to fix other human beings would be my answer. Hanging on to the wrong folks for too long, waiting for something to change over many quarters, many years, sometimes decades. And the realization is our job as leaders is to spot folks that have what we need, that were raised right, and to spot folks that are victims, that it's somebody else's fault and they don't take accountability. So my advice to anyone listening that owns a business or is a leader is to find folks that have found the top 20% 2 or 3 times earlier in life. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't care if you're the number one fry maker at McDonald's 2 years in a row, that counts. And when people can find the winner's circle on their own, they're very likely to find it again with you. If someone has a bedroom full of 8th place trophies, that's about what you can expect at your organization as well.
Well, I know many organizations struggle with cultures. So talk about what separates a culture that people tolerate from a culture that people genuinely want to be a part of.
Yeah, that goes back to my last comment. When the leadership team defines we are special, we are elite, we are striving to be our best, and we are looking for like-minded folks who want to go on a journey to greatness. So the average American worker, does about the minimum necessary not to get fired every 2 weeks when payroll comes around. And that's why there's TV shows about The Office, Curtis, because that stuff's funny. Unless you're a character and you report to Dwight Schrute or Michael Scott or one of these other business leaders who don't have it all together. So a hallmark of a great business or a great elite team or a great military unit or, anything that is, we'll call it top 20%, is those organizations are slow to hire and quick to fire. And most other organizations are very quick to hire and very slow to hire. That's why when you head out to the DMV, you're not expecting a world-class customer service experience.
Well, I know you've helped organizations win employee engagement awards. So talk about what can leaders do starting tomorrow to help increase employee engagement without increasing the budget.
Well, just setting that high standard, communicating it regularly, and removing people that clearly don't share that mindset. So first thing you do is you gotta commit to being great, and then you have to create a vision, just a 2-page business plan, not a 14, 18-page summary, but one piece of paper or 2 pieces of paper at max that can explain who we are, why we exist, what we do, who we do it with, how much we want to do it by 3-year, 1 year, quarterly, and what would be those long-term issues. I just listed the 8 questions on the 2-page document for the EOS VTO or Vision Traction Organizer. And EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System, is a set of business tools as a coach that I use, and I've implemented EOS for well over a decade, and it's a highly effective program. So whether you're a little company or a billion-dollar company, you can just simply follow that overlay, that process, put all your stuff in those neat little boxes, those compartments, and then you run it on a piece of software like Go Expand, for instance, a software tool that I have to help companies just put it all in the app. And what's in there is what we're committing to. What's not in there is what we're not thinking about. We're not interested in that. And many people try to boil the ocean, Curtis, and we can get 5 or 6 gallons rolling, and that's hard to do. A small pot on the stove of hot dogs takes a while, but the ocean, don't try. It ain't going to work. So it just allows us to be very specific in what's important and what's not. And if we stop worrying about the things that are not important, we can take that excess capacity and put it into the things that are important. So you got to have a system, and you got to have folks that are willing to follow it, and you got to be willing to move them on if they're not. And that right there are the magic ingredients to have a company that has 94% employee engagement and wins those Best Places to Work awards. And generally, those companies have a waiting list to work there to have, in some cases, twice or more the profit, and very little turnover, a lot of harmony, a lot of fun. And that's what I help companies do. I help good companies become great companies become exceptional companies, and I help exceptional companies become world-class. So wherever you're at, the idea is to go a notch or 2 above And it's a proven process and has about an 85% success rate. And the only time it doesn't work is because we've got an owner who's in it for them, not for the team, or they're not willing to speak the truth. They're going to be kind. They're going to be nice instead of kind, or they lack the commitment and the resolve to get to the other side. So I like to do a good job on the front side of weeding those folks out. And for those that want to take the journey, it's there for you, but it ain't easy because we're talking about people. It might be simple, the plan we go through, but it's not easy but because it requires a lot of these difficult human conversations. And not everyone's willing to be open and honest and vulnerable and speak the truth, especially around the boss.
Well, talk about your work with helping develop veterans into leadership roles, and also talk about the unique leadership skills that veterans possess that businesses often overlook.
Oh yeah, that's a passion of mine for sure. Could definitely, talk about that stuff for days. And essentially at the end of the day, there is a hidden value in veterans, right? Because, organizational challenges most companies have is a lack of accountability and ownership, poor communication between teams, lots of leadership gaps. A lot of time, hey, you know how to do this? Not really. Well, you're the senior person, so poof, you're the manager. So we have a lot of disengagement and low morale, slow execution, missed deadlines, difficulty adapting to change, weak talent pipelines, high turnover, that kind of stuff. And basically, if most businesses have a lack of ownership, veterans are going to have extreme accountability. Early's on time is late. If we have poor communication, veterans bring clear, concise communication because they're used to having lives depend on that clear, concise communication. So if we normally deal with leadership shortages, now we have proven leadership experience. Some special forces operator who retires and wants to go lead in the civilian business world might have $4 or $5 million spent on their project management, leadership, network building type skills. And these folks don't cost much more than regular folks do. And imagine someone with 20 years of elite level selection being selected out of 1,000 people 1,000 times, progressing through those ranks in the highest competitive environment on the planet, and then bringing all those skills to you on day one. The point being, Curtis, is, when I talk to a CEO, I say, listen, our people, unless you're splitting atoms, molecular biology, neurosurgery, we're not going to learn that in a quarter or two, but 90% of all business skills can be learned in a quarter or two by a world-class leader. And my point is, whoever their best leader is at the company wouldn't survive a weekend with one of our guys. So it's much easier to take a world-class leader and then train them what the business does than it is to take someone with many years of business experience and then train them to be a world-class leader. So that's the big value add. You need to stop training leaders and start hiring them, because 20 years and millions of dollars worth of training, you ain't got that time and you ain't got that money to give that level of training to your people. So sprinkling a few business sergeants in an organization is a great way to get that halo effect, that ripple effect. And when we put a world-class operator into a business, this centrifugal ring of awesome, like the ripples in a pond, everyone around that person just gets better and better. And people think, oh, a business sergeant, I don't want to yelling or push-ups at my business. Now that's a drill sergeant. That's how you take teenagers and turn them into soldiers. And that's a process to take somebody through that, which includes breaking people down and building them back up. A team sergeant, a officer, an experienced leader of other military folks for many years, is a whole nother level of relationships and accountability and discipline and training and lifelong learning. And they've also been tested in the toughest places. So when you've been tested 1,000 times and you come up thumbs up, aces, green, whatever, your past performance is a very good indicator of future performance. So it's really just that simple. And you might need one at your company, you might need five, but helping with communication and leadership and execution are only going to help a business. And it's not easy to do these things. So when you have somebody at that level of mastery, they make hard things look easy.
Well, what is one leadership lesson that you believed in strongly, but later on experience proved that it was wrong?
Yeah, the because I said so, focusing just on maybe rank or title, and that's a transferable thing from the military. So a lot of times there'd be a senior leader come in, say what they had to say, they'd turn around and everyone would sneer, snicker, or make jokes. And that's a respect thing. You can have the rank, but you need to earn the respect. So I like to see a commander or a senior enlisted advisor out working a broom or, picking up trash with the soldiers. And those are the leaders that people respect, not someone who has a perfect uniform and, complains about what the work you've done while you're covered in it. And, I think it's not just about rank. It's about reputation. It's about rank and reputation. And that took a while to figure out. But, after getting several examples of stellar leadership and wanting to emulate that, at the same time, there's just as many, perhaps even more examples of poor leadership. And when you experience, you kind of have that, I'm never going to do that when I'm a leader. So knowing your reputation precedes you in front of you, about 6 feet in front of you is your reputation. And it's also stays in the room 6 feet behind you. So I think being mindful of that early on would serve people well.
Well, since you've seen businesses fail and succeed from the inside, can you share a moment where you saw a business change their trajectory by changing their leadership approach?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's essentially exactly what I do is, I rarely get the calls to say, hey, everything's awesome here, but we were curious if there's another level, if there's a fifth level of awesome. Usually when I'm coming in, the business has hit a ceiling, operationally, human capital wise, market wise. A lot of people are, victims of their own success. They lack the simplicity in the process to be scalable. There's a lot of gray. And when we just have black and white, all the color, none of the color, that's really simple. That gray, in the Venn diagram between those two, that's where great businesses go to die, complexity. You can't really scale complexity, but you can scale the heck out of simplicity. So really getting rid of all the unnecessary SKUs, excess workflows, really simplifying the operating environment, giving parameters to folks, and then enabling them, getting them everything they need to be successful, and then getting the heck out of their way. So that is the big thing that I get brought in to do. And when you simplify your business and you put the right people in the right seats and you have systems in place, it becomes very methodical. The flywheel starts to spin and things actually get easier. So a little bit of investment of time, and that usually involves exiting, maybe 20, 30% of the leadership team and 30, 40% of the middle managers, because they're actually working against the vision. And when we remove those folks that would rather do it another way and we replace them with folks that are happy to be here and do it this way, then we remove a lot of that complexity. Think of it this way, Curtis. If you had two people next to each other and in a canoe and one was facing one way and one was facing the other way and you told them to row, there'd be a lot of splashing, but the boat really wouldn't be going anywhere because they're working against each other. Now you tell one of them to turn around and start rowing, and that canoe just takes right off. So it's just about getting everybody rowing in the same direction during that same beat. And when that happens, these boats go real fast on the water.
Well, when people look back on your career years from now, what leadership principle or legacy do you hope they'll remember the most?
That I believed in them, and they got to believe in themselves through that, building confidence. A lot of folks just need to have the mindset that we're going to make this happen. And if 80% of the thoughts between your ears on a day-to-day basis are generally negative, our job is to, call out those 80%, give them a Chuck Norris throat punch and turn it into a positive thought, say it out loud, and then move about your day, because your thoughts become your words become your actions, and your actions become your being. So it starts with getting rid of that stinking thinking and looking at things that are positive. Your attitude is one of the very few things in life you actually control. Control in general is an illusion. You can't really control people. You can create something and then curate a team who naturally wants to do that. And that doesn't require motivating them or managing them or threatening them or overcompensating them. It's just a puzzle piece that fits in nice. And when you get folks that really don't care, they're not interested, and they're mercenary, then it's very difficult to build an elite team with people that don't want to come to practice. So the very best athletes, right? You take like basketball, Steph Curry, like one of the best shooters ever. That guy's shooting like hundreds of shots before the game. And many times, if he didn't like it rolled off his fingers, he's going to shoot a couple hundred baskets after the game. And whoever's first in and last out for practice is probably going to be the captain at some point, because they're setting that example for everyone else. So I think making the decision and following through.
Tell us about any upcoming projects that you're working on that listeners need to be aware of.
Well, I think this Go Expand software is really interesting. We have a EOS version for teams that are all running on the US or plan to, and then we have a Go Expand Universal where you can name your own things and set up the app to conform to your existing systems if that's what you prefer. And what I find is if people are allowed to fail quietly in the dark, silently, they'll probably engage in that behavior. So once your numbers are semi-public and the expectations are there, and then there's a software that aligns everybody, synchronizes everybody, we can reward and recognize each other. We can, run our meetings, and the AI just listens to the conversation. If you take a task or a to-do, it just gives it to you. And if people aren't following through with their promises, the app docks them. And when, green is good, red is bad. And when you agree to be in the green and the app tracks when you're not, it really allows the right conversations at the right time. And you shouldn't be waiting every 90 days or every year to review your folks. We should have a live, real-time feedback loop of everyone's performance, everyone's alignment, and everyone's engagement. And that application at goexpand.com just spells it out for you, gives you a number. And you would like that to be a high number, like 90%, not a low number, like 20, 30%. So it's just a way to be very clear with who's actually the right person in the right seat and who's identifying as the right person in the right seat. And when you document everything, and we're playing the great game of business, like Moneyball, right? Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. Moneyball is a movie about statistics and using data to draft and curate a baseball team. And the year they did that with the Oakland A's, they won. And essentially the following year, every other team adopted that mindset. So it's kind of like Moneyball for business is the way I like to describe it, Curtis. And then the veteran-powered recruiting company is where we take those veterans just getting out, been out for a minute or been out for almost 30 years like me, and we give them a course. So if any veterans are listening, they can go to businesssergeant.com, bizsgt.com, and they're welcome to join the course for free. No charge to veterans. We don't charge veterans for anything. The companies we place them in pay us a contingent placement fee like any other recruiter. But all of our candidates got the leadership thing in spades. We really bring that. And then EOS coaching, eosworldwide.com/Chris Hallberg. And then ultimately, Curtis, I'd love for your listeners to follow me and interact with me on LinkedIn. I'll be definitely sharing this episode there.
All right, we'll close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe if there was something I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
I don't. Nothing comes to mind off the top of my head. But if I was going to leave somebody with a parting thought, it would be, you can't fly with eagles if you hang out with turkeys. And I think that's a Zig Ziglar quote from many years ago. So asking yourself, you are basically the composite of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if your company is small and you just have 1 or 2 people that ain't right, that's really making it difficult for everybody else. So just look around you and be very careful who you spend your time with, your energy with. And if you're not pinching yourself that I'm so lucky to have this person in my life or this person on my team or this customer, then I want you to keep going until, most of your life is a pinch me moment, because the dream usually starts with the nightmare and you got to get through the tough part, but it's so worth it would be my parting advice. It's hard, but it's so beautiful on the other side. Once you get there, you wish you took the journey a little bit earlier. So I guess I'll leave them with that, Curtis.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you're a leader or trying to be a leader, please keep up with everything that the business sergeant is up to. Definitely check out that Go Expand software. Sounds like some pretty neat stuff, and wish more companies would adopt that so you could get your review. Like you say, you don't have to wait 90 days or a year to get your review, but follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. Hook up with Chris on LinkedIn to keep up with everything that he's up to, and also to keep up with everything that Living the Dream podcast is up to. Visit www.curveball337.com, and please share that website and the show to everybody that you know. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. Once again, Chris, thank you for your service, and thank you for all that you're doing helping leaders, and thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, Curtis. Thank you.
For more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Until next time, keep living the dream.